The buyer has sold a product to his customer and needs to purchase from one of his sellers. How does the buyer do this without Onetrail? When the buyer does not use an electronic connection, the purchase orders will be placed via email, telephone, or the seller's web portal. The seller receives the buyer's order and has to manually process it into their own system. The buyer needs to know if his purchase order was received correctly and will naturally call the seller to confirm the stock. As not all products were in stock, some were placed on back order, so the buyer is unaware of the order status and calls the seller for an order status update. The buyer has to proactively inform his customer and will often contact his seller for further updates. Increasingly, sellers offer the possibility to deliver products directly to the buyer's customer by drop shipment. The product has already been delivered, but the buyer remains unaware and is still waiting for an order status update from the seller. When the buyer decides to call the seller for more information, the buyer is informed that the product has already been delivered. After the buyer receives the purchase invoice, via email or post, the invoice document has to be manually checked and booked into the account system. Often, the invoice prices appear to be different than the agreed purchase order, so the buyer has to contact the seller again to rectify the billing error. This leads to a lot of administration, handling of credit notes, and unsatisfied sellers, buyers, and customers. The answer is Onetrail. Onetrail.net runs a unique order data exchange service whereby the complete order process between buyers and sellers is electronically managed. When the buyer receives an order from his customer, the buyer can check their system and see which of the sellers has the products in stock and at what prices. The buyer makes a decision on where to buy the products and sends out an electronic purchase order to his selected sellers via Onetrail. After purchasing the product, the buyer instantly receives an order acknowledgement with order confirmation on the purchase price and stock availability. In the event that something changes in the order status on the seller's side, the seller will automatically send an order status update to the buyer's system. Therefore, the buyer can update his customer with all the information at their fingertips. The result is that all parties are readily informed with up-to-date information. When the seller has packed the product and sends it via drop shipment to the customer, the seller sends out an electronic dispatch advice message, which contains the product serial number and tracking reference for use within the buyer's system. The buyer is now aware that the products are in transit and can inform his customer. When the product has been delivered to the customer, the buyer receives an electronic invoice from the seller. As the buyer's system is updated by the seller's order confirmation, order status updates, and dispatch advice, the invoice will be exactly as expected and will match perfectly. With Onetrail.net, the order data exchange enables you to optimize all order-related processes. The result is simply improved internal efficiencies for all buyers and sellers, improved data quality, which leads to higher customer satisfaction, and above all, higher margins.